Hello and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Project. Today we're going to be sharing with you guys some of our personal lessons in business, because both Thea and I do have our own fitness businesses that we've been in for quite some time now, and we always find it really helpful and useful when we hear stories from others of, being in the trenches and what they've gone through. So we're going to share with you guys that today.
And a little disclaimer, we are not business coaches. We don't aspire to be one, but we just want to share with you what we have overcome and, limiting beliefs that we had during our times or challenges that we had to go through, but also the lessons we've learned so that you maybe not have to learn the same lessons. Although I do always think that sometimes learning lessons is good, and everything, even if it doesn't work out as you wanted it to, there's a lesson in that. So I'm excited to dive into this today.
Yeah, well, that's one of the first things. There's no failures, there's only lessons, and sometimes the heaviness of the lessons can feel overwhelming, but there's always something beneficial on the other side. Now, first of all, we both got into business doing something we loved. So that can have definite benefits to it and definite drawbacks or challenges. So I know I got into fitness because that was what I started becoming passionate about when I was studying at uni. I was studying sports science, exercise and health. And then as I got towards the end, I was thinking, what the hell do I actually do with this? And so that's when I went from being passionate about the actual fitness side to thinking, okay, how do I start a business? And that was probably one of the most difficult things to do, because when you're passionate about something, it's easy to learn about it. It's so easy to, for me personally, to learn about anatomy and muscles and exercises and what rep ranges to use. That was what was exciting. And then all of a sudden, went out there and started thinking, okay, now I have to get clients. Now I have to start posting on social media. I have to set up systems and businesses. And that was so challenging. So this is some of the stuff that I think would be very, very beneficial if you're interested in starting a business to know from the get-go. Are there any challenges you found when first starting out?
I think I want to spin this story a little bit and go long story long, because I had a few chats with my clients this week and they were like, oh, how did you get into it? And I was like, actually, I should probably change that and talk about it, because I never thought I would become a PT. It was never on my list. And I never thought about running a PT business. And I kind of just fell into it. And I think that's sometimes the best thing that you can do. If you are passionate about something and you quote unquote fall into something, it kind of already shows that you're on the right path and that you're doing something that you love. Versus, I don't know about you, but I remember coming out of school, or I know friends that came out of school and they're like, I don't know what the heck to do with myself. And I think being 18 or 19, whenever you finish school here, it can be really, really challenging to feel like, oh, this is going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And when I was 19, all I wanted to do was become a civil engineer. All I wanted to do. I wanted to be this badass woman that is a project manager, that goes on construction site in her suits and heels, bosses everyone around and shows them that females can freaking do it. So I think I always had this little bit of a passion of being like, I want to show men that I can do it too. If they can do it, I can do it. But then I obviously moved here to Australia and everything has kind of changed, and I didn't know how to become a civil engineer, but I still wanted to. So I tried everything in the whole wild world to become a civil engineer, because I actually hated talking to strangers. I was so incredibly shy, and I never thought that I'd be touching people for a living. Even communicating with people and being in front of a room or teaching classes, you're kind of on a stage. Even though you're not on a stage, you're kind of on a stage or for display. And I was always the person in the back, shy, on the side, never the center of attention. So for me, becoming or launching a fitness business was never something that I thought I would do. But my first lesson in business, I think is what I've written down in my notes, is listen to your clients, because literally my whole business now is only here because I had 3 people come to me and they wanted to train together. And that's how small group training launched for me. So when I first got into fitness, I originally did the course because I wanted to upskill myself, because I was too shy to book a PT and ask someone else for advice. I was like, oh, I'll just have to learn it myself then. And then I learned it myself. And then because I was socializing doing photo shoots, I got booked for a photo shoot in a gym, got a free membership, And at this stage, I was studying to become a PT, but I only started studying it for my own knowledge. Again, no intention of starting a business, which funnily enough, Fit College, where you don't work at Fit College, do you? No. But Fit College made you do a Facebook page back then, because it's a bit of a while ago, probably an Instagram page now, but back then we had to open up a Facebook page, and I called it Vipka's Personal Training, because I was like, I don't want a Facebook page. Like, what am I going to put on it? I don't want to be a PT. So I called it Vipka's Personal Training, had someone slide into my DMs on Insta actually and asked me if I wanted a logo, and I was like, actually, yeah, sure. Create me a free logo. So I got this Vipka's Personal Training logo, so old school. It's not pretty. She's not pretty. It's 6 years ago now. And I went to the photo shoot, got a free membership, and then this guy was like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm studying to become a civil engineer. But actually, I'm also studying to become a PT on the side. And he's like, oh, do you want to run some classes for me? And I'm like, sure, I've got nothing. And I've always been like a person that says yes to everything. I was like, yeah, I'm bored anyway. Like, I have nothing else to do. So I started running classes in the gym, and he wanted spin classes. And I'm like, I'm not a spin coach. Even back then, I wasn't a spin coach.
Spin classes.
And I was like, I'm not going to run spin classes. But I used to love doing HIIT. I was like, I run a HIIT class. And that was like, Kayla Istonis and stuff were big then. And HIIT classes were the thing to go to.
Popular,
Very popular. So that class escalated real quick. We had 10 spots filled, and then we had 14 spots filled. But in the beginning, there was like 3 people. And because the gym only had 50 members at a time, and it was like brand new, which was really cool because I learned a lot. So I helped him grow the gym, and I ran classes. And by the time because I had my Cert 3 only, I didn't have my Cert 4 yet. By the time I had my Cert 4, I already had people from the classes inquire for personal training. So then, again, I fell into it. I didn't plan to do personal training, but there's people asking me for it. So, all right, I might as well do it. Thank God these people never got injured, because my knowledge was so little. I was brand new. And I don't think at this stage I ever had a PT myself, besides an online coach that has written a program for me. So I think that's like a big downfall as well, that I've spoken to another person the other day too. It's like, some people want to become a PT, they've never actually had a PT. How do you know that? Like, that's strange to me. It's like, in my school, there was a guy that wanted to become a pilot, and he's never been on a plane before.
He's never been on a plane.
And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. So
that's really interesting.
I think then I had PT, and then I had these 2 friends. I don't know who was first, actually. It was either a group of 3 or a group of 2. And they came to me, and they're like, can we train together? And I was like, yeah, sure. Share the cost, train together, whatever. And then that happened. And then I had the 3, and they were training together. And I was like, there's something about this group training and small group person training. And then
Vibes are high.
Vibes are high. It makes it so much easier for me, because they count their own reps. I'm not just there to count reps anymore.
So they talk to each other.
They talk to each other, and they're all supportive. Like, it's just so much fun. And then that's how my whole business literally started. So I think listen to your audience and listen to your clientele is going to be a massive lesson. And that's probably that one thing that I would recommend. Like, ask questions, especially if you're brand new, because your target audience will literally tell you what they need and what they do. Even if you speak to your clients now, you will forget, for example, that someone doesn't know how to track macros because you've been explaining it for so long. You get a new client and they're like, what's this MFP? Like, how does it work? And you're like, oh, I do need to explain this still, and I do need to still put out content for that. Because I think for us,
learn the most through people's questions.
Yeah.
I'm finding that now too, both from clients and also the students I'm teaching.
Yeah.
Like, what they ask, I'm like, oh, there's the knowledge gap. And that's so helpful for me, because I'm like, yes, cool. There's
the content.
And there's the content.
Yes.
So there's so much going on up here. You don't know what to actually deliver until someone asks a question.
Yeah, I think so. And I literally had an inquiry the other day, and she's like, oh, do you do like strength? And I was like, ask me questions. I can go on a monologue for an hour about strength training.
How long do you want?
But you will not remember anything, and you probably have information overload. But if you ask me a specific question, I can help you with that specific question, give you the answers there, and it's relevant for you.
And build on it.
And I think that is so important. So my number one advice, and it's funny because the other day I got asked this actually by a TikTok guy. You know how they do street interviews? And I'm like, why did you pick me? And he's like, oh, what's like your number one advice? And I'm like, you know what? Listen to your audience. or listen to the people that you work with, because they're already your customer. If they're already your customer and they're already paying clients, what they want, they will then tell you, and they pay for, and they do things. Like, even with our events, they're like, oh, can we go on a hike? I'm like, heck yeah.
Sweet,
People
we'll
show
do
up.
that. Yeah.
And then, oh, can you bring out some merch? I'm like, heck yeah, if you guys want merch, I bring out some merch. And they're like, can you do this? And can we have an open day? And can we have some drinks? And can we do events? And I'm like, yes, love it. Makes it so much easier. So conversations, and listen to your people. Ask lots and lots and lots of questions.
Yeah.
That was a very long first advice, but I think it had needed the backstory to get there.
It's funny. It did actually bring up a lot in me of what reminded me why I started. It's funny how
Yeah.
you said the whole thing about some PTs want to be a PT having never been trained by a trainer before. And I'm like, actually, that's why I originally started. That's why I originally went to uni for sports sciences, because I was going to the gym and I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I felt really out of place and lost. And I knew one of the people that worked at the gym, and he was actually my first trainer, and I had so much fun training with him. And then, sorry, I almost forgot about it.
That actually brings up something for me. I need to go back, circle
yeah.
back to that.
He was so great at explaining how to do exercises and eliciting that passion he already had for fitness, that it really did kickstart that inspiration in me, because I started loving going to the gym and feeling the muscles and doing the exercises correctly. And so thank you, Roblin, for instilling that early on in me, that passion, because that is what kickstarted the desire to go start studying at uni, because that was the crucial age I was at when I left school.
Okay.
Had no clue what to do. What I first did actually at uni was sports science and zoology, because I love animals as well. So these two really extreme random majors going on. But what ended up being more exciting was the fitness one, or the sports science. And that kind of snowballed into the passion of ending up being, what do I want to do? And then I went and got my certs, because I wasn't sure I could actually use this with people, with actually training them. Turns out you probably could just go from uni and train people, because you've been through a 4-year degree, but I still wanted to tick the box and did my certs. But that was so helpful to jump into the world and actually train people.
Yeah, cool.
But the business lessons is probably the most challenging thing. Like, being passionate about something
Yes.
is one thing. Doing it as a business is almost completely different. And like we've already mentioned, when people ask a question and you go on a passion rant about it and give you lots of explanation, I love that, because it's so exciting.
Yeah.
But making it into a business is so challenging. I think we need to make sure that if someone is going to jump out of the world of, like, say, working for somewhere and into a business, there's so many things that you need to know.
Yeah, on that note, I think you can be really delusional, because once you become a PT, you'll have so many hats. You're
So
not.
many hats,
You're
yeah,
actually
yeah.
not just a PT. You are now your accountant. You are your social media marketer. You now have to be really good at socials and selling. If you haven't never done sales training, like
Sales training.
sales training is massive.
So crucial.
You have to sell yourself every day, and if you don't like sales, you're not going to go very far as a PT,
No.
which is crazy, because you can be the most passionate PT, but if you can't sell your services, you won't be able to help the people that you really want to help. And obviously, there's always options of being going to a gym and getting leads from the gym, or
Yeah.
being employed by a gym. But if you go out there by yourself, you're wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
You need to organize your things. You need to do email marketing. You need to have an onboarding thing. You have to take payment somehow. And there's lots of PTs I know that still take cash, and they're kind of surviving. But
It's
if-
not a
yeah.
sustainable business. Yeah.
if you want to scale it properly, and you want to turn this into a proper business rather than like a side hustle or hobby, you have to have processes, and you have to do all the things, and you have to wear all the hats. And I personally am a big believer that you have to wear all the hats first before you outsource.
Yes, because you need to understand what's going on within your business and how to
Yes.
explain that to somebody else.
Yeah.
And yes, I've tried to outsource a few times to people and have not done a great job of it. And it's ended up being worse off than when I was originally doing it. So it definitely comes back to, you need to know the step-by-step process of what that thing is. And if there is no step-by-step process, you need to make one.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, whether it's you're hopefully still doing your introductory consultations and first sessions with people, but there needs to be a process behind it so it's consistent. There needs to be a process behind how you do your accounting or your finances, or it's going to be all over the place. There needs to be a process behind what you do for marketing. Otherwise, it's going to be all over the place. It's going to be very challenging. And like you just mentioned before, that's probably my first most important point I want to hit home on, is getting consistent leads is the biggest thing with anything to do with business. If you don't have bodies and people to train or coach or teach or whatever you're doing, you got no business. So you need to make sure you've got some way to get those people. Either, like, if it is a personal training business, getting a job in a gym where you do get those fitness introductory sessions or something is easier. If you already have a connection to a group or a group of people for whatever your next business is, that's going to be your connection. Need to have people in some way. See too many people try and just flop because there's no one there, which is fine. That's part of the job, but need some way to make leads and get leads. And it's going to be very challenging otherwise.
I think one of the second biggest lessons for me is that if you need to wear all the hats and your business is solely relying on you, then your business is going to struggle eventually. Mm-hmm. So if you, and this is like a hard pill to swallow because no one really wants to hear this, I think. And I have been offended by this a lot when business coaches have said it, but it makes so much sense. Like, if you can't replace yourself in your business and your business is solely relying on you and you won't be able to sell it, it's going to be a tough one in the long game. And I see that with friends who now think about starting a family and they're a PT. They're like, how am I going to do this? Because if you're a mom, you can't be there at 6 a.m. or all day, every day. So I think that's a big one if you're starting a business as well. It's like, okay, how do you actually want to live your life and how are you going to fit that business around it? So if you are a PT booked 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and you're banking in cash, absolutely great, like amazing. But what are you going to do if you get sick? And I think you still have to have a plan in place for that. Because as much as I'm like, oh yeah, life happens and I'll figure it out if that ever happens, I'm just not going to injure myself. I'm just not going to get sick. I'm just not going to leave the country. Like, is that the life that you're going to live? Like, do you never want to go on holiday? Do you never just want to go away? And I think we both know how hard it can be if you want to go travel. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, how am I going to do this?
Struggle with this lesson.
It's actually more work for me to go on holiday than keep working.
Yes.
So I think
to stay in the system and the business because you've built it around yourself, but it can become a bit of a holding cell sometimes, even though it's something you're really passionate about and love. And I definitely still struggle with this to this day.
It's
finding
hard.
a way to collaborate or outsource with someone close by would be an optimal situation.
Yeah.
But it can be so hard to do.
It's so hard. And I think people don't think that through when they become a PT or start their business, which, fair enough. I said to my mum as well the other day, and I'm like, well, I don't know about this gym situation, because if I want to become, if I do change my mind and I do want a family, I kind of have to set it up now to make that work.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if I want it. But if I do want it, then I might be stuck and I might close my business because I actually can't do it. I'm like, that feels like so much responsibility and so hard for someone being like 27 that doesn't even know if she wants a family. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, at the moment, I couldn't have a family with this business.
To be honest, I do wish earlier on someone taught me a little bit more about setting something up sustainably. But to be honest, maybe I wasn't ready to learn that lesson yet, because it would be amazing to have that knowledge and that ability to set it up in a sustainable way early so that it could snowball and get bigger with a sustainable foundation rather than just relying on myself or yourself. So because that energy to consistently show up is the next challenge. Like, being someone who's able to regulate energy, look after yourself is important, but constantly having that business there all the time, taking up a lot of mental capacity and physical capacity is really, really hard. And I think learning now some lessons that I wish I'd set up better earlier, that's one of the biggest ones. Like, how could we set this up more sustainably, having extra support, having people there that do work with you from time to time that can take over if you're away, or having online components to the business that work in the background that don't necessarily always rely on trading the time for money. That is something, if this was a conversation to younger me, I would definitely say, listen to those lessons now and see what you can do to set them up, because it seems when you've got all the energy that it's super easy and you can just do it because you're passionate, but definitely feeling the effects of that now. In my business, it's quite hard. So energy is great when you've got it, but it's so challenging when it's not there.
Yeah.
Sustainable business models is something to learn.
It's interesting that you bring that up now, because I'm at that point now. I'm like, okay, now I can scale, but I kind of don't want to scale to a point where I'm there all day, every day, because then if something
not
does happen, it's
realistic.
going to be so hard. Like, yes, I have clients on the wait list. I could coach every morning, but if I coach every morning and I'm running out of energy and I have to get up every day and I have no time for myself or fill up my own cup, I can't coach as much as I want, or I can't coach as well as I wanted to. So I'm still in a process of finding how I'm going to make this work now, which is lesson number 3 for me, I think, is start and don't be perfect, because you can learn along the way as well. And sometimes, and this is a lot I've learned working in a startup and my full-time job before, once a corporate business or like a business becomes bigger, things slow down so much that sometimes nothing gets done. So within the startup, there would be like ideas floating around and people would have all these amazing ideas, but the business would be stagnant because it had to get approved through 10 layers. By the time it got approved, the trend's gone. You know, like it's like a little bit challenging to sometimes get it perfect. So sometimes it's better to just start and get it done. And I think that is something that people can struggle with. And I know that both of us are little perfectionists as well.
But yeah, I also learn best by doing.
Yeah.
So that's another lesson, is like, if you just give something a crack
Yeah.
and see how it goes, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
perfect, and it doesn't have to be the thing that's going to last forever. It's okay to get it not so great and then learn from it and go again. Because yeah, you're right. If we're just sitting there either overthinking or thinking we have to put it through a million filters first to make sure that it's just good enough, it's never going to move and it's never going to happen. And you're going to kind of relearn the same lessons over and over again because you haven't actually gone out there and given it a go. And I think that's now digging in deeper with my business right now, is where the lessons come that have the reflection of what might have been great then, but couldn't have done it, didn't have the knowledge, didn't have the skills. So what can we do going forward? Just give it a crack, give it a go.
Yeah,
it's going to be the most
too.
important thing. It's easy to listen to a lot of advice from people, coaches, and try to know it all already, but you won't know it until you do it.
Yeah. I'm a big believer of learning by doing. And I think when we had Brett on the podcast, I don't know if we said it on a podcast or if I had it in private conversation with him, but it was about, you can pay so much money to go to uni and you can learn it all on paper, short-term memory by the best of times usually as well. And you might learn, now if you're going to study medicine, it's a different story, but if you're studying something like business, you can go to uni and study it, or you can use that money and start a business and learn along the way. And I know for my type of learning, I would actually be better off starting the business and learning along the way than looking at the paperwork and never making anything happen. Because just because you go to uni or any course or any business coach, we're going to touch on that later, just because you're learning it on paper doesn't mean that you will ever put it into action. And I think that's a downfall here, and that we talked about just before, is getting a business coach. And now everyone's a freaking business coach and a guru out there as well. And I'm not saying they can't help you, but I think, like you said before, it's something that you can't see as this magic answer.
No.
Because they're not going to do the work for you. They can help you, they can tell you, they can inspire you, they can give you ideas. And I have had this business coach lately, and she's done amazing, but I have to put the work in. So I can sit on the call and I can avoid her, or I can not reply to her messages, which I haven't done lately because I've been too busy, and then nothing's going to get done. Or you sign up and do it yourself and figure it out as you go. So I think it's a bit of a mix of both, but I think we need to change the expectations that a business coach is magically going to fix your business, because they will probably install some magic in you in terms of giving you ideas and inspire you and think about things differently, but you still have to put in the work. But then at the same time, I also really like mentors or speaking to other people in business that have done things that I want to do, because they do give you a different perspective sometimes.
Yeah, I think my perspective is a bit of both. So I think I learn best by learning and immediately applying, immediately doing. Going through the trenches and doing it, you need to do, but I think with extra support, it's even better as long as you do it. And that's the key. So studying a course, I think, is really crucial because it covers all the foundations, it gets the basics solid. But again, you have to immediately use that. Like when I was going through my PT course, that was the whole point of it, was I'd learnt all this theory at uni and all this information, but I hadn't trained a single person with that information. So I didn't know how to apply it to a coaching situation. I only knew how to apply it to myself, playing around with it in my own gym training. I think that's what I felt like I was missing, and I'm actually really glad I did, because although the course itself was quite straightforward, I could use it immediately with people, human beings, and start training them. Yeah. And applying it straight away was my crucial thing. So I believe, I don't know, I learn kinesthetically by doing. So I'm not sure if other people learn better by hearing and seeing. But me doing it, that was the most embodied way to learn. Same deal with business coaching. You can hire a business coach, but you have to immediately do, not just sit there and ruminate and think, oh, I know so much information now. I'm so excited to get started. And then it just never happens. It's so frustrating. But I think if there's gaps in the education, you're still going to struggle so much. And this is me now looking back. I do wish I did either a business course or something earlier on that helped me fill the gap with some of this information I'm learning now through my own trial and error, which could have actually really easily probably been ironed out earlier. So if someone's ever doubting maybe doing a course, even if they're not thinking they might use it, I think it's actually a great idea to give it a crack, do it, but apply it straight away in some way, shape or form, because it's going to help you learn. And anything education-based or support-based is never going to be a negative as long as you do. So if you can feel like you're struggling with the information all up in your brain, you just got to get going. Do something with it. Like even if it's training someone for free or offering it to your friends and saying, hey, can I just practice on you? Like for no money, you got to get the reps done. Same as training in the bloody gym and all the stuff we do for exercise and nutrition, you got to get the reps done. I think that's what frustrates me when people say, oh, my course was useless or I didn't ever use my uni degree. I'm like, if you did actually apply what you're learning, it would be so useful. And then there's no downfall to ever educating yourself. And same deal with getting support and help. It's so useful, but it's actually a very long route around just to go and try it with absolutely no back knowledge, because imagine how many steps are currently missing in your mind for what to do, and you'll make the errors that other people have done a million times over that they could just mentor you or educate you on straight away. And exactly kind of the same reason why I love coaching people and giving them as much education as possible, within what they're able to absorb, because all the trial and error I did before I studied nutrition and fitness and exercise science created disordered eating patterns and all these problems I had to unravel and undo. And that's what I had to learn at my stage of my journey. But it'd be so much better if I had it slightly earlier to iron through that. So it's frustrating. But anyway, that is definitely the lesson there. Can you get yourself in there with something educational or coaching based or something, a mentorship, and immediately do? Yeah. Don't just sit on it and ignore it and think, oh, I know that information now. Do something. Yeah. Even if it's for free, even if it's like yourself, even if it's with other people, do it as much as you can.
I think for me, lesson number 4 would also be never stop learning.
Yeah, never stop.
I think you can, sometimes, they have a saying about the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yes.
And I think that happens. You might finish a degree or a course, you're like, oh, I know it all.
And then Dunning-Kruger Effect. Yes. Has anyone seen that graph? It goes like this little graph that has a curve upwards, and then it curves up all the way, and it says peak of Mount Stupid. And then it goes back down again. So that's when you think you know everything about whatever topic it is that you're learning about, and you think you know everything. And that's usually people on their high horse when they've come out of a course and they think they know. And then unfortunately, the more you're out there, the more you realise you don't know, and your confidence usually does take a bit of a dip before you realise, yes, you have to continuously always learn. And the masters of any area have spent years in the trenches doing it, learning, applying, doing, learning, applying, reps and reps and reps. And that's okay. You just have to make sure that you know that from the start and don't give up when you start realising, I don't know that much. That's okay. I've still got so much to learn.
And every person is different and people need different cues. I think that's something that I had to learn. And just because you say it twice, like you shouldn't say the same thing twice, because if you have to say it twice, the person didn't get how you said it first time. So you need to find a different way of saying it for the second time. So if you are doing a deadlift and I go hip back and they don't put the hip back, they don't know what hip back means.
No.
So you have to go like, oh, think about closing the car door when you have 2 grocery bags in your hand. Ding. Sometimes that works. Some people were like, ugh. I'm like, legally bond, bend and snap. Okay. But it doesn't work for everyone. And some people just need the stick and the hinging and the patterns. Like, you have to get creative and just know. I think one of the, actually, that's a massive lesson I had to learn. Just because it makes sense to you doesn't mean it makes sense to someone else.
No.
And you're dealing with people. Everyone's going to be so different. So you have to change your approach of explaining. And I think I'm looking for that particular word, but it's not about the student, but it's how you teach. So I think if you think maybe a student's dumb because they don't get it, but really what I've learned to do is like, oh, if they don't get it, how can I become better at explaining rather than blaming them for just not getting it? It's like, okay, they don't get it. That means I need to change how I explain it and how I word it and how I can explain it to a person that doesn't get it. And I think that's massive because or I know for myself, I was like, oh, why are they so stupid? Why don't they get it? Like back in the day when I first started at PT, I'm like, why don't I get it? And then I was like, it's because everyone learns different and everyone's different and they don't understand the cue. And I think that's massive. So always keep learning. And at the moment, I'm doing a rehab mentorship. And it's really, really good because we apply it straight away and we bring in case studies to the calls. So I have one of my clients, it's back pain, and I then ask questions on the call, go back to her, ask questions on her. And I think I always learn best when I can teach it after. So I think when we had Corey on the podcast, him explaining it for us from a PhD level to someone that maybe hasn't got a PhD or a listener, that he can explain it in a way that everyone can understand it, shows that he really knows what he's talking about. And I hate when people use fancy words to make themselves look better because it doesn't comprehend at the bottom. Like if you're up here with your knowledge, I think the most powerful thing that you can do is explaining it so simple that everyone gets it. And that's lesson number 4.
Yeah, going back to having students or people you're coaching and thinking they're not getting it, rather than just saying it again or saying, they just don't get it. How can you word it in a different way? How can you get more creative? I've definitely learned that over years of coaching with cueing and form and technique. I've got so many tools in the toolkit from ways to try and encourage someone to change their form a little bit or what feel or what they're looking for. And that's great. And I'm definitely learning that now, being a lecturer. I'm still so brand new at it, so I'm such a newbie in this world of learning to teach people about the concepts of fitness and everything. But the same thing's happening now. Like the students are asking questions, which is amazing because then I'm like, oh, that's where the gap is, like we were talking at the start. And I'm not explaining that well enough because they haven't understood the concept to a deep enough level. And then that immediately gives me ideas to back up and say, okay, what can I do to explain that a little bit better or a little bit more depth or maybe an exercise or an activity we can do. And that to me is so fun because I'm like, I've got somewhere to go with this. Whereas I just thought I'd just stand up there and say it and people would be like, oh yeah, cool, makes sense. Or if they didn't get it, I'd just be like, well, you need to ask me something so I know what you don't get and then I can explain it. But it's so much learning because I don't really understand yet how to be a great lecturer, but I'm hoping everything I've learned from coaching is going to apply directly across and get to that level where students, no matter what their understanding is currently, they can ask me questions and I can give them some tool to help them with that understanding because it'd be so fun to be able to teach people this deeper level of information about exercise or exercise science or business from a level that actually gets through. It's simple enough.
That makes lecturing actually really hard because in the gym, I'm quite a hands-on coach, which is why I said before, I'm like, I touch people now, because I have so many ADHD girls, and what I say doesn't comprehend. So they're not listening.
Way to learn.
So if I touch or hold my hand out and be like, push the hip back
squeeze
here,
this muscle.
Hold that, push the knee out here, that comprehends a lot more, I think, sometimes than just words.
Yeah.
But I think that is exactly what makes lecturing so hard because there's only so much you can do physically and learning by applying when you're in that lecture room and you're like,
and the first semester I did, there were a lot of the other lecturers past me have been great and they've added kind of little notes to the lecture notes saying here's an exercise or activity that I did and there's a few of them that are written down, but there's no kind of step by step of how they did it. So I'm just kind of thinking, they did this great activity and I'm not really 100% sure what it is, But from doing that the first semester, I wasn't confident enough to do many activities. So I just did lots of talking and then maybe lots of explaining and kind of showing them through it. But instantly, every time we did an activity, there was so much more engagement and fun, and they learnt. And I was just like, I really need to find the key concepts, make an activity about it, and make it more like doing, or where they got to explain it and they got to do it. So this semester I'm putting myself in the deep end, trying to do that. Like every time there's a concept on the slides of something that I think could be an activity, I'm getting them to do it. And some of it's gone real sketchy and some of it's going great, but I'm having so much more fun. And I think because
That's
it pulls because it pulls up all the questions from them, then I can see what they may need to learn.
Yeah.
Or if I'm seeing them demonstrating stuff and it's not so great, I'm like, that's the problem. That's why they're not getting it. So it's so much more interesting than just standing and talking and just expecting people to listen to every single word. It's a bit naive to think that because
It's going to comprehend.
it's not going to absorb every single word, except for one student who just like seems to understand everything. They're great.
Learning time.
He's like well at the end of the bell curve of like when someone's like listening to everything. But you got to have all these different ways to explain, to go through it, to understand, to comprehend. And I think that's an important part of business too. We need to make sure that there's all these different ways that you can get your concepts across that are not just going to be you talking to people or talking at people and assuming that it's all getting through.
100%.
Not everyone's learning. The next thing I really want to talk about is that structures, data and information. So early on, I think we all love that our intuition is guiding us, which is important. It's important for what you want to do, where you want to go, how you're feeling. But you need structures, data and information in place to make sure that you're not making decisions just purely on an emotional level, because your business is going to be way too turbulent.
Yeah.
So you need something to track to make sure you're on point. Like, are you tracking the leads that are coming in? Are you tracking your finances? Are the finances hitting the goals? Boring ass spreadsheets, which used to seem so dull to me, are now so exciting because they're showing what's actually going on.
The trajectory, we're going up.
Yes. Yeah, numbers can seem scary at the start, but you need to do that early on and having something supporting you, because otherwise you're going to just rely on your own energy all the time.
And talking about numbers, people always underestimate the taxes.
Yes, tax.
And I
Probably the
think-
biggest financial lesson of
Yeah.
business at all, because you don't do anything to do with tax when you're an employee.
No, I think you had a couple of lessons with that, right?
I did.
Have been lucky so far because I think I've just been told about it and I had a full-time job. Whereas now I know a lot more and I could be a bit more flexible having a full-time salary the last few years. So I never really had to worry about it too much. But thankfully, because I've already learned it from other people like you and other friends, I've been really good with putting money aside for tax. And I think that can be something that people just don't realise how important that is. Mm-hmm. I think luckily, because I had a partner at a time that ran his own business, I had my dad runs his own business. So I've been exposed to this tax thing from the get-go and I've not had an issue with it. But if you don't put money away, and our clients are like, oh, you must be banking it. And I'm like, guys, 40% is tax. Mm-hmm. Like, and then I have to pay all the other things, and then I can maybe pay myself with the baby salary. Like, I'm not making anything here. It's not there yet. And I think people forget, like, there's a lot of overheads as well if you're getting your business to a certain stage.
Yeah, your total income is not all yours when you're a business. It might be like when you're an employee and you're getting your paycheck. Yes, you can divvy that out to all your buckets and that's your money, but not when you're in a business. And yeah, I definitely learned that huge lesson to do with tax early on, not putting enough aside for the amount that was actually needed for tax and getting tax bills coming back. And it was very, very financially stressful. And I think the only thing that helped was hiring a really good accountant, and she set an actual plan, a structured system and plan of how much to exactly put aside and more to cover that. And that was so effective. And now you just have to put that massive, seemingly massive chunk aside every week into the tax account, and it doesn't exist anymore. That's it. You just can't pull out of it. It just has to stay there. If there's any left over, which if you've done a good job, you leave it there. It doesn't come out. And that has been the best thing ever. So having the accountant help me get ahead of that and write off any past tax debts has been the best lesson ever. And she's helped me use like Xero and be more intelligent with how to actually put everything aside for tax. So you've got to learn that early on or it's going to bite you in the butt. And then when you're earning enough money and you have to earn GST and actually put aside GST, which is extra 10%, you've got to make sure you've got it there. Otherwise, there's going to be another chunk that comes out. So it's not very fun, to be honest, but you just have to learn to accept that early on and
50%
put it out.
kind of goes into the other buckets.
Yes.
And that can't be reinvested in your business and can't be your salary. So
It's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
And finally, on top of it.
unless you're moving to Dubai or have a premises in Singapore where it's like tax is different.
Yeah.
If you're in Australia, make sure you pay your taxes.
And again, this could be some lesson that got learnt really early and really easily in business, but because I was studying something completely different and just jumped in there, didn't know. People tried to explain, yes, you need to put some money aside for tax, some money.
Some money.
Some is so vague. You don't know how much, how percentage-wise or anything like that, and that it's better to put more than less.
More than less.
And, it does catch up with you. You have to do it. So it's just something that I think needs to be learnt early on, is you just have to take those hard lessons. It would be easier if you just applied it straight away. If somebody tells you need to put aside 40% for tax, you literally do have to put aside 40% for tax. And tough luck if there's not much left over at the end.
Sad.
But yes, it is very, very painful lesson, but also very, very important. It's still worth it with doing a business, but financially wise, you just got to make the math work and make sure the spreadsheets work for you to realise, is this actually breaking me to either even or giving me a profit? Otherwise, there's no real point in the long run.
And I think what people might also not realise is if you are self-employed or you're running your own business, it can be a lot more challenging to get a loan or buy a house and do all the things because you don't have the regular paychecks.
Yeah, you need to have a longer time period showing your income to showcase that you're actually getting consistent income.
So all of those things are worth considering. So when I resigned from my full-time job, it's like, all right, where am I at in my journey where I do want to maybe purchase a house or maybe do this? Because if that's something I want to do next year, I probably would be better off having a full-time job so I can show those things. Whereas now being in business for like 2 weeks solely, that's going to be a lot harder because you have to have all that proof and collected that before you can do other things. So it's worth considering those things because people think, I think especially with social media at the moment, I'm like, oh yeah, running your own business. Everyone needs to run their own business. I'm like, some people shouldn't. And you have to be self-motivated and organised to run your own business. Sometimes it sounds so much better on socials or elsewhere than what it actually is. And you have to be committed to have the stress. You have to be committed to be organised. You have to be committed to make downfalls like on other areas. Because I was like, if I had just worked or stayed in my full-time job now, life would be easier because I can go home at 5 and I can clock off. I'm like, oh, Teams is off. I'm not replying to anyone. Done. I run my own business. I can still try and come home and clock off, but then they're like, oh, there's an inquiry and there's this and I should be doing that and I should be doing this. And I love the chaos. I think I'm made for this and I'm so glad that I'm doing it now. But it is something to consider because I think people think it's easy. And business should be easy eventually, but when you're starting out, it's not going to be easy. You have to do it all, and that's just part of it. And you have to learn it all. And I think that's a good thing. But I think that's why so many people don't last because they just assume, like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to run my own business and I can be back at the beach at 8 a.m. because who's going to tell me off? I'm like, you're going to just learn that lesson because who's going to do all your stuff? So it takes time.
Yeah, it brings up an important thing I was thinking about when I was driving down to work the other day, actually, in the car. I was thinking, it's so interesting how we have our own sounding chambers. We're always listening to people around us and mentors and people for advice, but also obviously what's on our social media and what's on in our world. Who's posting the most? The people with businesses, the people who have to do it for marketing. Of course, we see all these people and we assume that it's normal to have a really thriving, massive business with lots of leads and everyone's smashing it. But guess who's not posting a single thing because they either are not allowed to or don't have to? All these people with full-time jobs or part-time jobs who are actually banking it, have a great time, go home, they can pay their mortgage and they're actually really happy to go camping on the weekend. But you see nothing about what they do because they don't need to or can't. Like, actually, I'm not allowed to post anything about where I work because it's part of their policies. I can't post that I'm going there to work. I can't say where it is that I'm doing my lecturing. It's part of their policy. So you'll never see that on my socials. And it's so funny because we just think that that's the only way you have to make money is by all the people that we're seeing. And this is, again, my own projection of what I see too. But it's totally okay to not want to have a business, not want to be a person that has a full-time thing that's taking up all their effort. But it's also okay to have a part-time and a business like I am and like you did. It's also okay to just be an employee.
Yeah.
Like, there's no wrong or right of anything. And it's just important to think what you're trying to do needs to suit you and the numbers that you've run in your own life and whether it's going to actually work out for you. That's what's most important, so that you don't have to think, oh, I failed or I've given up or I'm doing something else now because I couldn't do that. It's like, well, it is bloody hard.
Yeah.
It involves so much work, and it's okay if business isn't actually for you or you don't want to do it anymore.
I do sometimes envy the people that will just post when on holiday, you know? I'm like, oh yeah, they still exist. They're just on holiday. And here I am sharing my whole life story on socials, because if I'm not sharing anything, I'm going to not become relevant. And that's obviously like an internal story.
Yeah.
It's not quite true like that. But I do
it's
rely
something
on
that
social
happens,
media for leads. If I don't show up on socials, and especially like the last few months where life was hectic, it was easier, and I did not post as much. But it's like if I would have just ignored it all, I'd probably be in a lot worse position now than I just kept going and pretended on social media everything was going fine, when in the back of my mind the house was on freaking fire. And I think that's something as business owners, you have to just navigate the fires. You have to just keep going. You have to keep showing up, even if it's hard and even if it's tough. And thankfully, I have friends like you where I'm like, Kirsty,
It's hard. I'm like, you can do it.
Hard. Help. And then that is super, super helpful. But you're not meant to do it alone, but you are kind of on your own. And you have to have your own back in business as well.
Like, you need all the support you can get, but also you need to do the work, and it is hard. To be honest, any route that you take is going to be challenging in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
Like, yes, if you choose to do employee work, maybe it is monotonous, maybe it is hard, maybe your boss is telling you to do things and it's going to be challenging. But maybe if you go for your own work, you're your own boss, so you have to be the one being disciplined and putting in place all the actions and making sure you're actually doing it. It's going to be challenging either way. It's just making sure that you know that. And it's okay to have a little cry and a whinge or like get some support, obviously, but it's going to be challenging. That's just a factor of it all.
100%.
Yeah, and I think so that's kind of why we wanted to talk about this today, is because we're still, obviously, we're still in the middle of everything. You can tell from what we're saying, we're learning, but it's fun to share, and it's fun to know that other people are also going through lots of different things, because either what we do see on social media is curated and polished, or somebody is trying to make it look maybe a little bit better than what it is, or we don't even hear from other people that might have some really useful life advice that aren't in our direct circle, but they're still going to give us, so maybe they'd give us some useful information. It's so helpful to hear other people's stories and where it actually leads in their own life and what they're working through, to see if you can navigate it yourself as well and what you might want to do next.
Yeah, I think if we had to summarize it and look at the lessons learned, I think one, it's really important to find something that you're passionate about and keep in mind the life that you want to live. If you are wanting to start an own business, look at the business perspective and try and work towards a business that allows you to live the life that you want to live. Because otherwise you're going to be in the rat race. You might as well work 9 to 5 for someone else without the stresses.
Yeah.
So I think creating your dream life with your dream business, while acknowledging that it's not going to be like that from the get-go, because I think that's what I hate about business coaches. Like, work 20 hours a week. I'm like, you didn't start there, babes.
No,
you
no
can't
one
tell
started
me
there.
you started on 20 hours a week and that's all you did. So I think make sure that you are happy to put in the work to create the business that you actually want to have. And then secondly, put money aside for tax. And
Make
be
sure your
smart.
numbers
Like,
work.
have your numbers, sort your numbers. I don't think everyone needs a business plan, because I just went for it and it kind of worked out.
No,
But
need
you
to
do
sort
have
that
to
as
track
well.
your numbers, track your leads, track your income, track your things. Make sure you're going up, or you set your own KPIs or something like that. And then potentially the next one for me would be like, keep learning and always acknowledge that you don't know it all, and that always be open-minded to pivot and change and learn. I think that's like my 3 key takeaways.
100%. I think I would add to that is having your own self-discipline and learning where your own boundaries are when it comes to this is so important. Like, if you are going to do your own business, you need to be self-disciplined. You need to know both what to do and make sure they're actually doing the work and putting in place everything you're learning, but then also when to switch off and when to not take it home with you all the time because, like you said, the stresses might just follow you forever and ever and ever and actually take over your whole brain, and that's not going to be helpful for your business. So we need to make sure that there's actually some self-discipline going on. And then I would second the numbers. Like if you are someone who's very passionate and very excited to start a business, that's so amazing and you're a really good figurehead for the business, but you've got to make sure that you know the numbers and know these systems because energy can only last so long and it's going to start kind of eating away at you from the inside if you don't have anything supporting you or a system supporting you. So it's important to make sure that the spreadsheets and the boring structured things may seem so dull from the start, but they ironically are the thing that holds you up and they're so important. It's going to be such an important part of your actual journey. And make sure that you are always using everything that you do. Don't ever complain that you've learnt something and that you know it all, but it's not happening for you. It means you're not doing the work and you're not getting out there and actually applying. So you've got to apply. Otherwise, there's no point. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good.
That's our perspective.
That's our insights.
Yeah. Hopefully, if you've learned something from today, or you want to share something that you're personally going
through, or
through,
if you want to ask some questions,
ask some questions.
We would love some questions, actually.
Yes. Yeah. Any questions about how to run businesses, or what we've done with our own businesses, or anything that you think we talked about that you'd like us to expand on in one other episode, that would be really exciting because we'd love to help. And from where we're at, obviously we're not like right at the end of mastery or anything like that, but we're somewhere along the path and we can always help and be a bit more of an insight from this part of life that we're at.
And just remember that we're all just making it up. Like everyone in life is just making things up and learning as they're going. Like no one knows it all.
No one at all. Thanks so much for listening. Subscribe to hear more and stay updated when we release a new episode, but we would also love it if you wrote a review if this episode has resonated with you. Remember that nothing changes if nothing changes. Reflect on what you've learnt from this episode and please message us your key takeaway or any questions that you might have. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, take action for your health, and remember that you are powerful.